Welcome to the F5 Application Security Manager, Web Application Firewall Demo Series. In this demo we'll show how to use the Data Guard feature for preventing information leakage, and how to attain PCI compliance using Big IP.